Thank you, General Phillips. Thank you very much. Our next speaker was the former commanding general of the 1st Marine Division in Iraq and the 34th Commandant of the Marine Corps. Please welcome General James Conway.
Madam distinguished panel, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for the opportunity to be with you here today. Madam I too want to salute you for your efforts over these last weeks and months. Your ability and that of your organization to marshal the support that you have in Europe and in the United States, I'm absolutely convinced has saved lives of your countrymen in Iraq. So from a military man's perspective, you take your wins where you can find them. You still have, in the words of an American 19th century poet, many miles to go before you sleep. But your efforts to date have been remarkable and we respect them. I will talk today about two brief subjects. The first, the people of Ashraf. Each of us has our association with them. Each will vary. Mine goes back to 2004 when I took the 1st Marine Expeditionary Force back to Iraq and into the province of Anbar in the west of Iraq. There was at that time a small satellite camp inhabited by MEK or personnel who would eventually go to Ashraf. My intelligence officer reported to me that, well, we also have a terrorist camp in the middle of our sector. As it turns out, when we investigated that, nothing, of course, could have been further from the truth. I became Commandant. In my period, we sent 3 rotations of Marines to guard Camp Ashraf. I visited them, and what I found there reflected some of the same things we had seen outside Fallujah. These were warm and engaging people, and in no way what we would consider terrorists. Over the last 3 years, it's been my observation that the people at the camp have become political pawns. There, I think, are 4 players at this table. Of course, Iraq and Iran, the United States, and the Europeans as represented by the European Union and the UN. Each has a different sort of perspective. You probably noted that the American speakers today are reluctant to go overseas and be hypercritical of our nation. They will certainly speak frankly and tell the truth. But I will follow that pattern and say that at least my perspective of the U.S. approach is least understandable of all of those at the table. It makes absolutely no sense to me, on the one hand, to continue to list the MEK as a terrorist organization, and yet most recently for our Secretary of State to employ 2 ambassadors and their staff to do all that they can to look after their concern and their welfare. Tribute here to the Europeans. We have observed for decades their increasing concern for human rights and human dignity. They have already done the right thing with regard to delisting, and now they are putting, I think, an appropriate amount of focus on trying to take care of things in Iraq to the best of their abilities to do so. To the dismay, I think, of Americans who have fought and served in Iraq, we see the Iraqi government as continuing an approach of accommodation to the Iranian government. That is not what we thought we were creating. It's not what we thought we were fighting for, and yet it appears on an increasing scale based on what we're seeing today. The Iranian government, on their part, I think, is happy to see the amount of influence that they can bring to bear on the Iraqi government. How much will they be able to fold them under their domain? It certainly yet remains to be seen. But again, the trend lines are not good. Donations will claim otherwise. 3,500 people, 3,500 people. What they do represent, I believe, is an idea, a passion,